Hello YouTube, thanks for checking out this video. I wanted to preface this video by saying that this project spans the course of 8 months, and I just wanted to show the process from start to finish, where I started, how I ended up, and the challenges that I had along the way. The video ends a little abruptly. It does show the final stage where I'm using SFU gearboxes, but I will be posting more videos of the motion rig in action with Project Cars 2, Dirt Rally 2, and F123. So check back later for those videos. So let's get into it.
Hello, fellow sim racers. Today I'm going to be doing a video on a DIY project involving my H3, and the project is adding surge. If you don't know what surge is, it's a motion on a platform that's forward and backwards. So you hit the accelerator, the platform moves back. You hit the brake, the platform kind of moves forward, and it simulates your surge, your forward and backward acceleration and deceleration. So surge platforms are really expensive. They're $2,500, $3,500, and I have some spare DOF Reality motors from my old M2 seat mover, and I'm going to attempt to use those motors and build my own surge platform that this will sit on and slide forward and backward. So this is the DOF Reality motor from my old M2 seat mover, and it's the old style where they used the worm gear, but they have quite a bit of power, and I have two of these, so I'm thinking that it should be more than enough power to slide the rig forward and backwards. I may lengthen the arm because the longer the arm is, the more throw it will have, and I can rotate this potentiometer to orientate this rod here or this arm here in any direction that I want. So it'll probably sit something like this with the arm up and down, straight up and down, and then move forwards and backwards, and there'll be a link connected to that, which will be connected to the rig and push the rig back and forward. So that's the idea with the motors. And then the actual platform will sit on caster wheels that I got from Home Depot. So here's one of them here. Nice ball bearings and just a fixed caster wheel like that. So there'll be 4 of those. And then there's some 2-inch channel here that will sit on the floor, and then the wheel will roll along in that channel. And then this is sort of part of what I've built so far. This will be a plate, so the front of the rig will sit up here, and then the back of the rig will sit back here, and there'll be 2 of these, one on each side, and they will sit in the channel like that, and then roll forwards and backwards. And I think that that should be plenty of motion. I may not even be able to achieve that with the motors. Got the plate with the caster wheels mocked up where I want it to go. I took a square and made sure it was square to the main subframe that attaches to. I think what I'm going to do for ease of access is I'm going to take this plate out to the garage, and I'm going to drill 4 small holes there, and then I think I'm going to use self-tapping screws to screw this plate to the bottom of the rig, because I don't think it needs to be overly strong, and self-tapping screws are actually stronger than you might think, and most of the weight is just going to be sitting on the plate. It's just going to be kind of gliding forwards and backwards, so it shouldn't be a lot of stress. Should be fine. If not, then I'll just put bolts through it or something. But the issue is in the back. You've got the wheels for the yaw that roll across where I need to bolt it, so I don't want to go all the way through. And I could weld it, but that's permanent. So I think I'm just going to use self-tapping screws, and that should be fine. So I'm going to go drill some holes in this plate, and then I'll do the other plate, get all 4 wheels on, and bolt it up, and then check back in.
Got the plate bolted on, casters are bolted on, got both sides done. Got the self-tappers up there, 4 in each corner, and it's really solid. So I'm gonna flip it down. Rolls nice and easily. Quite a bit of motion, but again, I don't know how much I'll be able to get out of these motors, so it may only end up being, you know, like this much or something. With the arm the way it is, when it moves forward and backwards, it's only about 2 inches, which is just not enough. So I experimented with extending the arm up, and I really had to bring it up like almost like 10 inches in order to get, I think, even just 7 inches of total travel, which would probably be okay. But the issue is once you start, the higher you start coming off of this arm, the less torque you're going to get. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to bed. I'm going to think about it. So as I was trying to fall asleep last night, I started thinking about the potentiometer on the other side. And basically, if there was no potentiometer and you just took power up to the motor, this arm would just spin around and around and around and around. The limiting factor in how far it goes is the potentiometer. And this output shaft here is directly connected across, and it goes into, or it connects to this potentiometer with a coupler. So I got to thinking, I'm like, if I could somehow make a couple of gears and a gear reduction to that so that this would turn more than this, then that would give me more articulation in the arm. So that's what I did. So I 3D printed up these gears, and I'm about to take them off the printer now, and we'll see how they fit on the gearbox, and then we'll do a little test. Okay, so here are the gears. I think they came out pretty well. And there's a smaller one here. So the idea is that the larger one will go on the potentiometer, and then the smaller one will go on the output shaft. So I'm just going to pause the video and get these fitted, and then we'll see how it all works. Okay, so got the big gear on there, and then right here put a little Loctite on this bolt and just snugged it up so that this arm can pivot, and then came down with a spring here. So this is basically a spring-loaded arm, and then reprinted the smaller gear with a shorter shank. So let's go ahead and put that in. So what we're going to do is take the set screws out of the old coupler. Go ahead and put them in the new gear. Not a lot of torque in these gears. I mean, that potentiometer rotates super easy. So we just need to make sure that gear is on there solid, which it is. And then that just comes down and sits on it. So we are ready to test it out. I just thought of one thing before I test it. Because the potentiometer is spinning the opposite way now, I'm going to have to reverse the polarity of the motor. So on DOF Reality, what we do is we pop the cap off on the connector. Up there, and you can see the positive and negative. So you flip those around, get this little wire off. We just pop out. We put positive over here. And negative over here. It's working there. So let's get it up. Okay, it's straight now. So let's see what our movement is now using SimTool software. So I will move the slider. That's max that way. Max that way. So that's quite a bit of movement. It's almost... It's about what I was looking for. Alright, so I fabricated a couple of brackets. These are for the to extend the arm. And a fair amount of fabrication involved in this little project, but I had to cut some square stock down and then drill holes. So the two lower holes here will bolt onto the arm like that. And then I've got some adjustment here. So this link will attach here. And then I'll have an option of which hole I want to go in. So I'll have some adjustment. So I'm going to get these bolted up to the motors. Okay, so I have both motors done up with the 3D printed gear modification. Both of the arms have been installed. Both motors are tested and working well. So now I have to figure out how I need to mount these motors, attach them to the rig, and set up the slides. Here's the slider frame welded up. Now I got to figure out how to attach the motors to it. So what I ended up doing was cutting the motor mount off the frame of the M2 seat mover and using that. I reinforced it here with some extra plate steel. It should be strong enough. It's welded on both sides. There will be some torque this way. I think it should be fine. You know, worst case scenario, I might have to reinforce it if it does flex too much, but I'm thinking it should be good. It's pretty solid. I've got the motors flipped around. They're actually going to go under the rig a little bit, so it should give a slightly cleaner look. And then I'm going to redo the way that these connect to the rig. So this is the current way that they are sitting now. So now I'm going to put them underneath the rig, and hopefully this time around it'll go better. Okay, so it is midnight on day 3, and I think I've finally gotten to a point where I'm happy with the way everything is going. I've had to put it together and take it apart a number of times. Sorry, I'm kind of tired. I was up really late last night. But, yeah, I'll just show you what I got. Here we go. Alrighty, so got the two motors in there, and there is a threaded rod that attaches the two arms together, but it's somewhat loose, so they can flex independent of each other to some degree. So there's all the way back. Forward. There is some lurching, but that's mostly because of just the way that the slider is in SimTools when I move the mouse. In game, I think I'll be able to tune it so it's a little better. I have thought about some type of a dampener system to get rid of that, kind of you can get that bounce going. Alright, I'm going to give you a quick demo of Dirt Rally. This is just a very rudimentary test. I did a little bit of tuning and just to kind of get the idea of what it does. So I'll show you what I got.
$30. 5 right long, tightens 3, into 4 left long. $30. 6 right, extra long, tightens, into 4 left long, tightens 3 narrow. Into don't cut, 4 right. Opens 30, 6 left, 150.
So anyway, I'll have to look at the video and see how well that came across, but it actually feels pretty good. I wish there was maybe a little bit more detail in the shifts. You can feel them, and I'm sure that each game will be a little bit different, and I'll be able to do some more tuning. But I think for a first test, I guess this is really like a second test now. Yeah, pretty happy with it. There's a few more things I'd like to do, but I'm also really excited to get the rest of the motion working with it. So you can start mixing in some surge with the seat kind of pitching back a little bit, as the surge platform is working. I think once everything comes together, it's going to feel really good. And then also, when you're in VR, you won't be able to really see the room around you. You're just going to sort of feel that, and you do feel the acceleration. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that test. All right, in an attempt to reduce a little bit of jerkiness, I've added these springs up here to the rod, and it's going to come down and put tension on it, and it's just going to kind of always be putting tension on the gear lash. And I did a couple tests with it, and I think it helps. I'll give you a demonstration of the movement with the springs. So it looks like how it's moving. This is the first time I've tested it. It looks like I'm going to need to probably bolt this metal plate there. But that's the general idea. And then somebody on the Facebook DOF Reality forums pointed out to me that even though this hinge here is bolted solid to the frame, all of the torque is coming up through this pivot bolt for the yaw, which is only a relatively small bolt. So it's possible that that could shear off, and then the whole rig would basically fall off the platform, so that's no good. So I've got a few bushings, so I think I'm going to basically something like that, put a bushing in, and then put a nice 1/2 inch bolt through that bushing there. So this is going to slip in here, and then this bushing here, it's a little tight, but I think it'll loosen up. Maybe I'll sand it some, but that's going to go in like that. And this bolt's going to go through, and then there'll be a couple of washers in between the two frame sections, but the whole thing will clamp down on the inner bushing, which will spin inside that bushing there. And then as far as this bushing goes, I did have to I'm a lawnmower mechanic, so I've got a lot of lawnmower parts, and these are little axle bushings. They usually have a flange on the top, but I needed to space the top out just slightly because the hole in the top was bigger, but the hole that I drilled in the bottom, I made the right size. So it's going to go like that. It'll fit in the top section of the hole, and then this part here fits down mint. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So there's the top hole that comes that way from the factory once you take the bearing out. So with those, it's going to fit down just like that, and then it'll drop down all the way into the lower hole. Okay, I'm going to try and take a little bit off of this just so it spins a little more freely in the bushing because it's a little tight. Perfect. Okay, now we need to drill out this hole in order to accept this bigger bolt. That'll go right down through the whole thing, and we're not breaking that. Alright, so everything is looking good. My only concern now is I just don't want this bushing to spin in the housing. I want this inner bushing to turn inside that. So I think what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of this CA glue around it. So this is where my rig normally goes. I've got a TV up there, and I put a rubber mat down to help things stay in place and keep, from sliding around. So this is the rails here, and then up here we've got the two motors, and they've got links from each one that come back and connect to the actual rig itself, which rolls on the wheels. And then I did the gear reduction for the potentiometers. I reprinted this 3D block, or this bushing block here, for the spring tension, and I bolted the arm or the plate to the frame because that was still moving a little bit. So the springs basically just always put a little bit of tension on the gear lash. Might help, whatever. So yeah, that's about it. I mean, it's a pretty simple setup, really. So now I just need to somehow get the rig on the sliders and hook the two links up, and then figure out all the wiring. So this is basically how it's going to be. It wasn't too bad getting it in there and getting it on the sliders. I just have the control boxes temporarily wired up. It sits a little higher now, so my TV is a little bit low. Minor detail, but at least I can walk around my room now. It's becoming a disaster. So anyway, time to debug some software and see if we can get this thing working.
All right, welcome back. So I've got the project almost done. I had to spend a couple of days figuring out the software and making a few adjustments and things like that. I was actually getting pretty frustrated with the software because it's just not really designed to work the way that I'm trying to get it to work. So it's been a learning curve. Basically, I'm using two programs, Sim Racing Studio and Sim Tools. And Sim Racing Studio is running the controller for the H3, my main platform that does the pitch and the roll and the yaw, and the traction loss. And I've been using that for a while for that, and it works great. There's a ton of different tuning options, but that software will only see one DOF reality unit. You can't hook up two units to it and do like a custom motion profile, which would be awesome if they did, but it just isn't something that's supported right now. So I'm left to having to use a separate program to run the second DOF reality controller, which is for the Surge platform. And I ended up using Sim Tools because honestly, there just isn't a lot of options out there. And the problem that I ran into was Sim Tools and the Sim Racing Studios would conflict with each other. And then once both of them were connected, one wouldn't work because it was conflicting with the other one. So I had a lot of troubleshooting to do with that, and it's not ideal now, but I do have a system that works. A little bit of a process I have to go through. It's not too bad, but things have to be done in a specific order, otherwise it just won't work. And I did a couple initial tests, and I was getting some really weird lag on the main platform. Both of the platforms were working together, but the motion on the main rig just wasn't working. And I would like stop and hit the brakes and bring the car to a complete stop, and the motion would like continue for like a couple of seconds and then stop, like there was a delay. And it didn't feel right either. It just didn't match up. And it ended up just being a simple mistake on my part that I was trying to use a UDP relay with the sim tools that I really just didn't need. So I deleted that, and then everything's been working great since then. But I still have a certain process I have to go through to keep the two programs from conflicting against each other. So anyway, What I'm going to do now is move my TV slightly up because the rig has been raised about 5 inches. So I'm going to adjust the TV, bring that up a little bit. I honestly mostly use the TV just for when I'm shooting video of me driving in it because it's just a nice visual for somebody watching the video to be able to see. I mostly play in, I'm pretty much, you know, only play in VR. So I honestly don't even need the TV, but it kind of looks cool and it is nice if you're doing a video to have it there. So I'm going to adjust the TV. Last night I did play around with the position of the links on the arms. I had drilled a bunch of different holes and I had sort of had it in the middle position and I just wasn't really getting enough movement. So I ended up moving them all the way to the top. And that feels pretty good because it seems like when I'm actually racing and using the platform, the motion of those arms with the way that Sims Tools, you know, reads the telemetry and outputs it, they're not really going full, you know, to the full 100% in either direction. So, you know, having the link in the upper hole gives it some extra movement to sort of compensate for the fact that those arms are only really, seems like they're kind of, you know, it's hard to tell when I'm on it. Maybe I'll see later in the video, but it really only seems like for the most part, they're going to maybe, you know, 70% or something like that. So anyway, enough talk. And I'm going to get a couple things straightened out here. And then I'm going to shoot a video of the platform in motion. I've only tried one game so far, Dirt Rally. I do have that working. And the next game after that I'm going to try is Project Cars 2, because those are pretty much the two games I play the most. And so I'll see if I can get Project Cars 2 working. But I still have a lot left to hook up. You know, I have my haptic system. I've got the Wind Sim kit that needs to be installed, or not installed, but you know, just plugged in and wired. Really, I've just been concentrating on the motion right now. So still a lot to do, really, but there is starting to be some light at the end of the tunnel, and this has been pretty involved. I've been pretty obsessed with it, and I've been going strong now, working on it for a couple of weeks. So hopefully everything will come together and it'll be a nice finished project. I can say that I don't have any experience with a surge platform, and it's a cool feeling of getting that sort of that acceleration and then the braking, but it's also kind of weird. I actually started experiencing some motion sickness, which I rarely ever have any problems with that, and and it was sort of strange. I got I ended up setting up my motion compensation software because I hadn't gotten to that yet. And once that was set up, it seemed to really help a lot with that motion sickness. So I think that things weren't quite dialed in yet. Once I kind of got it dialed in and things started feeling better, that motion sickness started to go away. But it is sort of a strange feeling because you get that acceleration and your body, it feels so natural that you almost don't notice it until it's not there anymore. So the platform accelerates, but then it can only move so far. So it accelerates and then it stops, you know, and then it slowly comes back. And so you feel that acceleration, but then there's nothing there after that, you know, unless you hit the brakes and then it goes the other way. Then you hit the accelerator, it goes the other way, brake, accelerator. So you do get that. But if you just hit the accelerator, you get that acceleration, maybe a couple of gear shifts, you know, but then the acceleration stops. And that's a little bit of a strange feeling. And I think after a while, like I just won't notice it anymore. But it does feel good, and it's just a little bit weird because you're sort of expecting to just, you know, hit the accelerator and you feel that acceleration and you just sort of expect to kind of keep going, but it doesn't. It just kind of, you get that initial surge and then, you know, and then there's nothing unless you know, like I said, unless you change it up. If you let off the accelerator, you know, and then hit it again or press the brake, you know. So it feels really good when there's sort of, you know, a twisty section in the track and you're kind of on and off the throttle a little bit, you know, you're on the brakes and then you get more motion out of the surge platform. Whereas if you're just, launching from a dead stop, you get that acceleration and a couple of gear shifts, and then it just kind of, there's nothing there. So it's kind of strange, but it does feel good. It's really cool. So anyway, enough talk. I will get this set up for the video and hopefully have something cool to show you guys.
Left long, 50, crest and keep right of a crest, into 5 right, very long, 50, keep left of a jump, 80, dip, and keep left of a big jump, 80, 6 right long of a crest, 60, slow dip to keep left of a crest, 50, turn square right, opens, 50. 6 right long, and 6 left, extra long, and keep right to the 80, keep middle of a jump, 50, 6 left of a crest, 80, 6 right, tightens of a crest, keep middle of a crest, 80, dip.
Okay, so here's where I'm at now. I had to wait about a month, but I ordered a SFU upgrade kit for the motor because although the surge platform worked pretty well, the issue I was having was with the gear lash, just like anybody who has the old gearboxes understands. And here's an old gearbox here. The problem is that you've got a little bit of slop in these gearboxes. So what was happening is the platform would surge forward, and then it would get this slop at the end, and you kind of get like a lurch, and it was very immersion breaking. So I've also just gone to a single motor versus 2 motors, and I'm actually going to use the other motor, and I'm going to try to make a seatbelt tensioning system with it. So anyway, this is where it is right now. I've got the SFU upgrade, and then this arm link here bolts directly to the frame of the platform, so we're no longer going to need this stupid hinge thing anymore. So anyway, I wanted to shoot a quick video of this before I put it all together so it's easier to see. So that's where I'm at right now. Alright, so I tested the SFU unit out, and it was really so much better, so much smoother, no lurching. I originally had this plate on here with the link connecting to give me more movement, but I decided to go back to the 3D printed gears to give me more motion. So I'll show you what that looks like with the 3D printed gears. Basically giving me 100% mechanical movement with the 3D printed gears. So I'll give you a demonstration. So watch how much movement I get now. All the way to the end of the threaded gear. All the way up like that. So a ton of movement now with that gear reduction. Alright, I've got it hooked up. Still using the arm, but I'm having it, I shortened the position I moved the arm closer in on the two inner holes on the arm here, so it shortened it up there, and then I also moved this the point at which this rod connects. It used to be in the outside hole, and I moved it in 1, 2, 3 holes, so it is significantly shorter. So I'm getting more mechanical power out of the motor because it's a shorter arm, and I'm getting more throw from the motor because of the reduction in the potentiometer. So the only thing I'm losing is a little bit of speed, which I don't think will matter. So I'll show you how it works with the rig connected up, and it's looking pretty nice. So very smooth, no lurching. I'm happy with it.